So when we're talking about unemployment, now that we've defined it, now that we've talked about it over time, we've split it up into different groups, we've talked about the difficulties of international comparisons, let's talk about some of the root causes of unemployment and the different types of unemployment that we can categorize unemployed peoples into. So the first one we're going to talk about is cyclical unemployment. So cyclical unemployment, just like the name suggests, it's closely tied to the business cycle. So for instance, there would be higher unemployment during a recession, ostensibly from low demand, right? Yeah.
Would seasonal workers sometimes be cyclical?
No, because this is talking about like business cycles that evolve over decades, not necessarily over a year. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good question. The next type we're going to talk about is frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment is essentially a necessary evil. There's always going to be some frictional unemployment. So unlike cyclical unemployment, right, which we can pretty much minimize when we're in economic expansions and peaks, frictional unemployment is a characteristic of the labor markets. Frictional unemployment is unemployment that occurs as workers move between jobs. So some of you will be frictionally unemployed when you graduate college, as you move between matriculation and your first career. I've been frictionally unemployed before, as I was finishing up my PhD and I wasn't teaching, and I was doing different kinds of things, and working at this hedge fund and working with this company that incubates small businesses and so on and so forth. And then I found myself frictionally unemployed, just kind of doing things on Upwork and making ends meet. So frictional unemployment is a necessary part of the economy, and for most of us, it's a necessary part of life. Some of us will get through life, and either through luck or through persistence and careful planning, perhaps always arrange a job for when they graduate, or always arrange a new job for when they're anticipating quitting their old job. But sometimes you get laid off. Sometimes you get fired. Sometimes you get laid off. Sometimes it's just those are the breaks. Demand's not there. We got to cut hours, or we're shutting the place down, or we've been bought by an international company and you're redundant now, right? Like, these things happen. And our last type of unemployment that we're going to talk about here is structural unemployment. So structural unemployment occurs because individuals, Gesundheit, lack skills valued by employers. So structural unemployment is a story that takes many different forms, right? auto workers in the Rust Belt were structurally unemployed. Their skills, as automation increased, their skills were no longer valued and needed by employers. As self-driving cars and self-driving trucks come to life and to fruition, a lot of truck drivers are going to be structurally unemployed at some point in the next 30 years. And the interesting thing about that is the truck driving cannot be done entirely by the robots. There's skills needed to navigate through, traffic and to get on and off highways and just to like back into the different loading docks, right? But the way that they're already doing this remotely is not with like a driving kit with like a wheel and like, pedals. It's like with a controller. So it's going to be, people that are like video game native that are going to be doing these jobs, not necessarily people that have their CDLs right now and have been long haul truckers for the last 30 years. So with most technological improvement, there's some job destruction and some job creation. The job destruction from technological improvement is called structural unemployment. And for the most part, the government tries to retrain those employees or train them into, ideally you would train them into the new industries that are emerging out of the destruction of the old industries. But, again, the example with the truck drivers and the video game controllers, right? It's going to be really difficult, and those jobs are going to go to younger people rather than to, people with their CDLs. So when we're talking about unemployment, we have this fantastical notion called the natural rate of unemployment. Which is a really nice thought. So the natural rate of unemployment is essentially saying, okay, if cyclical unemployment is 0%, and if there's, a minimum of frictional unemployment, some kind of, 2% or something like that, and again, some minimum of structural employment, I don't know, it could be 0, could be 1%, somewhere around there, right? Then in this, wonderful time when cyclical unemployment is 0 and we're at these kind of minimum levels here, then we'll be at the natural, and it's called the NAIRU, the natural adjusted for inflation rate of unemployment of somewhere around, 2 to 4%. And this natural rate, this natural adjusted for inflation rate of unemployment, is the unemployment rate that would exist in a growing, healthy economy from some combination of economic, social, and political factors at any given time. So sometimes you'll hear people talk about full employment and the economy being at full employment. This does not mean that the unemployment rate is 0. It actually means that the unemployment rate is this NAIRU, between 2 and 4%. So full employment is when the actual unemployment rate is equal to the natural unemployment rate, which is not 0. Like there's just a certain amount of unemployment that even in the best of times is endemic to the labor markets and the capitalist system that we find ourselves in.